Hi, Nikki here. Today we're going to do a sassy mini on the Neoprene Tote from Driven by Graphics. I'm going to show you how to press this tote using the cardboard method and how it's easier and how you're supposed to do it with a clamshell press and a swing away. So let's get started. What you're going to need for this tutorial is you're going to need that Neoprene Tote from Driven by Graphics. You're also going to need 2 transfers, as it is double-sided, lint roller, cardboard, which will be your jig, blowout paper, and a heat press set at 385 for 60 seconds. So as you can see, I've already pressed one. This is what they look like already completed. It's a nice sized tote that measures about 14 inches tall and it's about 11.5 inches wide. This right here, the actual, what I call residential area, is the inside is about 10 inches and it's got about a 5.5 inch gusset on the bottom. What you're going to want to do first is grab that tote. Now it may come in wrap. However it does come, you always want to lint roll your item. So we're going to take it out of here. We're going to get our sticky lint roller. You want to make sure that you lint roll in multiple directions. And you also want to make sure that you lint roll both sides. Then what you want to do is grab yourself a piece of cardboard. You'll be able to use this over and over again. What this is going to do is it's going to go on the inside of your tote. You want to measure it to where it's just slightly smaller, but it's at least as big as the printable area. You want to go in, you want to open up your tote. You want to take your cardboard and you want to stick it inside. There are flaps at the bottom, as you can see right here. You want to stick, for this particular one, you want to stick it in the top because we're going to press on this side of it. Whatever side you are pressing on, you want to stick the cardboard into that flap. Make sure it's in there nice and tight. Now we do not pre-press our neoprene tote, at least I don't. The reason being is it does swell. You also don't want to do a peek under the hood, if you will. After you've pressed it to wonder if you've done a good job, you don't want to try to repress it because neoprene does swell. It'll move underneath that transfer and it will cause some off-gassing and shadowing. We want to make sure that we have the right amount of pressure for this. For our clamshell users only, move the handles on the inside and what I call the butt end on the outside. The reason being is there's 4 layers of material here where there's only 2. You get more even pressure if the handles are in towards the back and the base or the butt end is facing you. Doesn't really necessarily matter for swing away users, but it definitely does matter with clamshell users as the back always presses tighter than your front. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen up my pressure greatly. You don't want this to be a squish pressure or a really firm pressure. You also don't want it to be super light. Almost there. You want to be able to just close it out. Now, as I said, it does swell, so we want to give this time to cool off. What I did do is I tested my pressure on the back side that I'll do second. My side that I'm going to be used didn't get underneath the heat. So we're going to make sure that everything is nice and tucked in. You're going to make sure that your cardboard is in that top flap. You're going to take your image and you're going to lay it down. So again, the cardboard side is facing your transfer. Then you're going to take your tape. You're going to peel this back. You want to bend your cardboard. You're going to peel this back and make sure that it's as close to the edge as possible. Please note that if you notice, this has a black edge, so you will definitely get a good bleed space on it so that it'll press correctly. You want to add tape to this portion here. Flip it down, rotate it around. You want to put this up. The spot that has no cardboard in it, flip that up and tape down your base. Okay, I don't tape it in any other direction. I just tape it on the handle and on the butt end. Then I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it inside here with my heat press at 395 for 60 seconds. We're going to add some butcher paper to the top. and then we're going to press it down. Please note, again, you don't want to be looking under the hood, so to speak. Once you press your neoprene, there is no going back, there is no repressing. The reason being is it does swell. And when your neoprene swells, it shrinks in underneath the paper in different areas, causing it to not line up properly. You will end up with off-gassing, shadowing, reprints, whatever you'd like to call it, you will end up with that. So this is kind of a one and done kind of thing. Just make sure you have really good pressure on it, that you are pressing it, you've pre-pressed, you don't pre-press it, but you made sure that it was in the right direction. Inside your press, handles here, butt end here. Swing away users don't necessarily have to worry about that, but us clamshell users absolutely do. You would like to make sure that you do lint roll all of your fabric products to include your neoprene items. Neoprene doesn't necessarily need firm pressure, but it does need a medium pressure for this because you are going through so many layers. Let me give you an example as to why. You have that butt end. There's a lot there. Now, you're going to want to go in. You should be able to see your image through this to make sure that you did do a good job. Now, I think I probably could have gone a little bit tighter on my pressure. That's okay. I'm going to go in right now, give it a couple turns for the back side of it. Let's take this off and see how we did. And she came out perfect. So the reason I added a little bit of more pressure for the back side is because this does thin out a little bit, spreads out with the swelling process. This came out absolutely gorgeous. Now what we're going to do is flip it over. You're going to take that cardboard and you're going to slide it out and you're going to put it right through that top piece again. This piece right here, that top flap that wasn't pressed yet. Make sure you have your cardboard all centered in. I've tightened my heat press down just a little bit to help with that swelling that's going to happen or has happened. Okay, get everything all situated. Grab my image, lay it down. Again, we want to tape the bottom. And we want to flip this back and make sure this is even and tape the top. These have a generous bleed on them, so you will be okay. And because there's these black lines all the way around it, it's going to allow for you to get a better image. Let's get our butcher paper. Okay. Again, handle side in, butt or base side facing you. You want to make sure you have your blowout paper on the bottom, your substrate, your transfers, and blowout paper on the top, because it will bleed through to your platens, whether it's your bottom or your top platen, it will bleed through. Plus, when you're repressing something that has double-sided, it will off-gas onto your bottom. So let's just err on the side of caution and always add butcher paper. Again, I did add a little bit of extra pressure because the neoprene did swell on the first time around, so I might get some uneven pressure. To combat that, I add just a little bit more pressure for that second round, and then that way I have a more even pressure. I have my cardboard in that top flap, as I said. Again, it adds for just more even pressure, and it gives it a firm surface. Because it is fabric, it can add ripples and rolls, and we don't want that in our item. Few more seconds. While you're doing this, it's nothing that has to be hard. Neoprene can be a tricky item. Where you want to use kiss me pressure, as I call it, or light pressure, is on your neoprene chapstick holders, your car coasters, and your coasters, and all of those you can get from Driven by Graphics as well. Some things that you can use your lunch tote for, not just lunches. They could be bingo bags, doll clothes holders, Matchbox car holders. I'm using these to hold my items for our dogs, their food, their water. They could be a lot of other things. They're not just lunch totes. Now let's see how we did. Pull it off. Please keep in mind, Neoprene is very hot when it's been pressed. And let me show you why. This is a great learning moment right now. As you can see, my pressure was different. I didn't add enough pressure and I ended up with this off-gassing or not enough pressure. This is what happens when you don't have enough pressure on here. So make sure you add enough pressure on the second time around because it does swell. This is a great learning moment for all of you as to what happens when you don't have enough pressure. So add a little bit more pressure before you press it, because I won't be able to line this back up again. It won't line up the way I want it to, and unfortunately it will off shadow, off gas, and cause for an uneven press. So because there was not enough pressure on this back side, you can see actually in the writing what happens. I wouldn't be able to lay that back down. So hopefully that little bit helps. Add enough pressure, that it's nice firm pressure, and you should be well off to the races. As you can see our front side though, it pressed beautifully. For more fun how tutorial tips on how to press all things for sublimation, follow me here on YouTube and make sure you head over to Driven by Graphics Supply Co. for more substrates like this. Talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.